Hello and welcome to The Menu, Monocle Radio's food and drink program. I'm your host, Chiara Rimella. Coming up, it's the beginning of the Easter weekend for those who celebrate, so what better time to indulge in an episode dedicated to chocolate? First up, we meet the man behind the brand championing hot chocolate as an everyday drink.
I think I have a good understanding of my customers and being on the forefront of that as well and giving the customer so many choices. I know there will be something for everybody.
Also on the program, we're in Denmark to savor some award-winning bars.
I think that's even more important than flavor. It's the sensuous melt in your mouth that makes your brain go absolutely goo-goo.
Plus, we unwrap the latest Easter egg trends with Monocle's own Fernando Augusto Pacheco. All that here in The Menu on Monocle Radio. Many people will have a hot drink pretty much every day. For most of us, that's often a morning coffee or tea, but Jens Knoops believes there's room for more choice on a drinks menu. Rather than being confined to a wintry treat, Jens thinks chocolate drinks should belong in the everyday. However, when the German-born entrepreneur was trying to find something that suited his daily routine, he realized that the only options on the market were either cheap versions made of powder or luxurious, indulgent varieties to be savored slowly sitting at a cafe. That's why he came up with Knoops, an outlet that serves chocolate drinks, hot or cold, made with dozens of different types of chocolate flakes, from creamy white to powerful 100% dark chocolate. All can be customized to suit different palates or moods. Since opening his first location in the small English town of Rye, he has now expanded all around the UK with a view to bringing his outposts to international spots soon. Jens joined me in the studio fresh from a visit to the Salon de Chocolat in New York City, and we quickly got chatting about different countries' specific taste for chocolate.
Everybody says, oh, I don't like American chocolate, or I don't like British chocolate, or I don't like Swiss chocolate. A lot of people say that as well. It has a very distinctive flavor profile. And of course, it's produced for the local market based on very specific recipes. And American chocolate is very distinct because people are used to it. They like their comfort. It's very much a comfort milk chocolate. So if you bring in a UK brand or a Swiss brand, they would probably reject it. Even though I have seen some UK chocolates on the shelf there, they're already considered as premium. When I went through immigration and I had to tell them what I was doing in New York, they said, oh, what's your favorite chocolate? And I said, oh, I like this and this and this. And they immediately referenced the very well-known British brand as the best chocolate ever. And I thought, okay, that's very interesting. You probably wouldn't find these people in the UK saying, oh, that specific US brand is the best chocolate. Yes, my childhood was very much milk chocolate driven, very sweet, comfort, a lot of caramel, vanilla flavors. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that made me fall in love with chocolate because I was the person that was always rewarded by their grandmother with chocolate. And I loved it. But it is a classic caramelly vanilla milk chocolate taste that introduced me to the world of feel-good chocolate.
Well, I'm not going to ask you why you have a passion for chocolate, because I feel like it is one of the foods that most people can immediately relate to the absolute kind of pleasure and decadence of it. But I do want to know, at what point did it turn from something that was comforting and a passion of yours into a genuine business idea? Because a lot of us love chocolate, but not all of us are ready to make it into our lives and into our profession.
I never thought chocolate could be a business, because for me it was always pleasure, and I did a lot of other jobs, obviously. I have different careers in the path. But I think, so there were two defining moments when I turned to, oh, chocolate could actually be a proper job and a career. I was working in consumer research for many years, global consumer research, where I was listening to focus groups a lot. And the continuous theme, the repeating theme was the small affordable luxury, the instant treat without breaking the bank. So paying just a little bit more to get the idea of good sourcing, luxury, a customized product as well. But also this childhood memory again, but then also the instant hit. Is it warming? Is it cooling? Is it sweet? Does it give you carbohydrates, energy? Is it an exotic escapism? So I was very intrigued with that. But I didn't connect that to chocolate yet. That happened in the winter from 2012 to 2013 when I was living in central London. And I was walking through the streets and I fancied a hot chocolate. And what was there was either very mainstream, the classic powdered chocolates, which were very sweet and didn't give you many options. And then there was super high end. Again, no options to customize. And there was nothing in the middle with different percentages, origins, milks, ingredients. So I thought, okay, there's something missing here. And around that time, I think people were also more aware of the bean-to-bar movement in the UK, where chocolate makers referenced the beans where they're coming from. They put a lot of effort into preserving the goodness of the beans and the flavor profiles, and then put it at a slight higher premium price on the supermarket shelves. But that didn't translate into drinking chocolates yet. So I thought, okay, let's just do it.
Well, I find this really interesting because you were really early on in this sort of shift. But I think as more and more people perhaps realize that they don't want to drink coffee all the time, I've been hearing a lot more people who are substituting coffee, or when they go to a cafe with their friends will drink chocolate. But I think there is a perception or perhaps a reputation problem where a lot of the time, because hot chocolate is sort of associated with like a childhood pleasure, it's not really perceived as a very serious drink. How have you seen that perception change since you began? And then just in general, how has the world of the consumption of hot chocolate changed around you since 2013? Because it really has evolved so much.
The beautiful thing about drinking chocolate is it's much more inclusive than coffee is. If you go into a coffee shop, there's a very specific demographic in terms of age, there, for example. Whereas if you walk into one of our chocolate cafes, you can find the whole family there. Caffeine is addictive. We know that. Chocolate has very, very little, if non-addictive elements in there, which is beautiful. So some of the stimulants in cacao, one of them is, for example, theobromine, which is it's a slow-release stimulant which works on your heart. It's also good for your arteries. There's very little caffeine in there. And for those who really like the coffee or the caffeine intake, they just add a single or double shot espresso to the drink. But theobromine is non-addictive, whereas caffeine is. So when people are coming into the store, it's, I fancy it, I want it, I want a gourmet experience, I want a few carbohydrates to fuel my body. But a lot of people are just fed up with their constant caffeine addiction, that they must have their coffee. And I have to be honest, I'm one of those. If I don't have my second coffee in the afternoon, I feel it, I get a little headache, and then I just top it up with an espresso, and then it's gone. Then on the other hand, I can eat chocolate all time during the day. So, but yes, there is a shift. Also, if you come into a coffee shop, there's usually, unless you go to the high-end stores, there's one bean. And then you have different variety of milks, different textures, different sizes of the drink. But if you come into a hot chocolate bar at Knoops, you have 21 different chocolates to choose from. And that's on a hot size. And then you also have the cold ones. You don't really get this in a coffee shop.
Why go for the drinking variety of chocolate rather than the eating variety? I'm actually one that I love chocolate, but I sort of always feel the need to feel the texture of it. I'm not usually one to go for the drinking variety. What led you to that specific iteration of this pleasure? It's
our niche. We own this. Knoops is known for the best chocolate drinks possible. Let's have a Knoops. Whereas there's what I feel now an abundance of chocolate makers that put their bar on a supermarket shelf. So this is unique to us. Plus, you walk into a shop and into one of our stores, Knoops, and you say, I would like to have an 85%. I would like a little bit of chili and a sea salt. And can I have that extra hot? Make that an 8 ounce and add some orange zest and chili to it. You can't get this in a bar. The barista or the knoopologist, how we call them, makes it on the spot for you just like you want it. And if you fancy something different, you can also have it cold. You don't get this in the bar. In the bar, you're dictated by what's on the shelf. Whereas when you do the drink, you have a similar gourmet experience. Yes, it's liquid. Still a very good mouthfeel because we also take care of the perfect temperature as well as the perfect milk for it. It is exactly how you want it. And 21 different percentages from a variety of origins. You don't get this on the supermarket shelf.
So what about these origins? How do you source the chocolate that goes into the drinks? And how did you make the decision to touch on all those points. How did you construct this sort of portfolio of tasters so you know that you can sort of hit all of the possible customization variants? How did you pick each different kind of variety?
I want to have a balance. I want to source globally. I don't want to leave any countries out. I want to have the comfort, the classic blends. We talked about the childhood milk chocolates, but then I also want the flavorful single origin chocolates that have a lot of guts and a lot of character. They may not be the best sellers, but I think it's just awesome that we have them on the menu as well for those who want that. I'm quite specific when it comes to that because, first of all, I have to like it. And I always hope that I like it, others will like it as well. I think I have a good understanding of my customers and being on the forefront of that as well and giving the customer so many choices. I know there will be something for everybody when it comes to sweetness as well as flavor profile or ingredients or dietary requirements. But I always think, okay, I like it, so I think other people will like it as well. Whereas if there's a chocolate, first of all, that doesn't pass my quality test for many reasons. I don't like the sustainability story behind it, or I feel there wasn't the right post-harvest process, or the flavor profile is too strange, then it probably doesn't end up on the menu.
Jens Knoops there, speaking to me in the studio at Midori House. This is the menu. Danish chocolate maker Mikkel Friis-Holm has a legitimate claim to being the greatest chocolate maker in the world right now. Every year for a decade, he has won gold medals at the International Chocolate Awards, the independently judged Chocolate World Championships. Last year alone, he won 10 of them, including Best Chocolate Maker. Monocle's Denmark correspondent Michael Booth went along to his factory in the small village of Herlev, west of Copenhagen. Here, he learned about the amount of work that goes into making the world's best chocolate, the reasons for the current crisis in cocoa bean production, and how Mikkel has been ahead of everyone else when it comes to the ethical sourcing of beans. He brings us this report.
Oh wow, the completely different lemon smell in here. I guess you're making a ganache.
Some of it into these guys.
Oh, what's this?
It's Bronte pistachios. Pour chocolate slowly in with the nuts.
Is that one of those giant cement mixer things?
Yeah.
And there's an even gianter one behind you.
One, yeah.
What? I mean, I could fit inside that.
You could.
It'd be quite a nice way to go.
You can do 150 kilo of product at a time. So.
It's not every day you get to visit a chocolate factory, especially the best in the world. The obvious concern is, who would I be in the Roald Dahl version of this visit? Charlie Bucket, I hope, but I suspect I'm more in the Augustus Gloop demographic. Anyway, I tried to put these thoughts out of my head as master chocolate maker Mikkel Friis-Holm takes me through the very noisy process of making his award-winning chocolate. The beans are mostly sourced from 6 varieties he actually helped to create 17 years ago. They're grown in Nicaragua, and they're fermented and dried there too, before being shipped to Herlev, where they begin the process of being turned into sumptuous chocolate, with the roasting and the mysterious conching process.
The molecular complexity of chocolate is off the scale, isn't it?
It's super complex, and it's one of those foods, a dark chocolate, that's in the category where people say you could actually survive from this for years if you only ate dark chocolate.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the best news I've heard for ages.
you have the flavonoids and antioxidants and the sugar. There's lots of energy. There's a lot of healthy fatty acids, and there's polyphenols and phenols and whatnot.
Wow, you could. Oh my God, this is radical.
I don't know if
news.
it works like that for real. It's kind of a scientist.
I'll take one for the team. I'm prepared for humankind to test it.
We have the refiners for grinding down and mixing with the sugar and milk powder if it's a milk chocolate. And then we have the conchers for finishing the flavor and the texture of the chocolate.
Well, it's going to be noisy in there, so I'll just ask you this question outside.
Yeah.
Conching, it's this kind of, to me, almost mystical process in making chocolate.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
The conching is a process where you work with distributing the fats evenly around the dry stuff in the cocoa and the sugar. So you have, which gives you a much better, more creamy mouthfeel. And if you like us, we don't use lecithin as an emulsifier. That means that we have a super creamy melt of our chocolate, whereas if you use emulsifiers, you will have a watery melt, and it will also inhibit your mouth when it produces saliva in experiencing the real melt of chocolate. This process is the most important part of making chocolate, and we use 4 to 6 days. The world's biggest Belgian producer would be 8 hours.
I think you've just explained to me, I've been eating your chocolate for years. what I like about it and what's different about it and how I can always tell your chocolate from others. It's a kind of super smooth creaminess, but with complex flavours.
Yeah.
And often with great French chocolate, for example, there's much more of a snap, but it's much more brittle.
Yeah, I would say that's because they use lecithin.
Let's open the door briefly in here. I'm going to ask the really simple question first of all. What makes great chocolate?
It's super simple. You have the best raw material and you have the best process. In cacao, it's actually knowing your cacao, working with specific genetics, specific clones, so you can control the flavors. And then it's also controlling the whole post-harvest with the fermentation. And then the process at the factory with a real roaster, a real refiner, stuff like that. It's a long list of everything is 100%, but then you get there.
But I guess that fermentation process, it's the only one that doesn't happen here in Denmark.
Yeah.
How do you control it? How do you keep an eye on that?
I was lucky to get in a project 17 years ago where this was the main idea behind the project, is getting some specific genetics and then also working on having specific protocols for fermentation.
I know that the ethical sourcing of the beans has been a fundament in this company since it started. Why did you care?
I really have to say I did not make this brand to save the world or save the farmers. I did it to make the world's best chocolate. But to make the world's best chocolate, I have to be in a direct, eye-height collaboration with the farmers to get the quality of raw material that I need to do this. Knowing that their cacao goes into the world's best chocolate. I mean, they get a pay that's 3-4 times what they will get from a buyer.
Talking about money, it's also one of the world's most expensive bars of chocolate, and that's not an accusation. You get what you pay for, right? But the Danes, they notoriously spend less on their groceries than anyone else in Europe. Your bars retail at about 100 kroner for a bar. In the supermarket, you can get a bar of chocolate for 35 kroner. How have you persuaded the Danes to buy your bars?
When they taste it, they come back. In the beginning, they were laughing. Well, I mean, I think I'm perhaps just as much here because I'm really stubborn. But this was my vision, and if you want people to do something like this, you have to be consistent and keep doing it. Most of my retailers, if there's a new one, they say, "Oh, I really hope in the first weeks we'll see lots of people buying this." I said, "They will not. It'll take you a year to build up the clientele that will pay this amount of money for a chocolate. But then they will keep coming back." What kind of clientele do you want?
How do you judge a good bar of chocolate yourself?
Chocolate is texture. It's how it melts. It's the melt that makes your brain go bam, crazy.
Okay.
I think that's even more important than flavor. It's the sensuous melt in your mouth that makes your brain go absolutely goo-goo.
And we're hearing a lot about the crisis in the cocoa bean supply globally. Prices going up by, I think, 30% or more.
No, 300, 400%.
Oh, right. Yeah, I missed a zero off that.
Yeah.
300%.
Yeah.
How's that impacting you? What's your take on that?
It's not really impacting me because I paid that amount of money before.
Oh, okay.
But for the quality that we get. But our quality is a different world, what goes into mainstream chocolate, Belgian chocolate, all that shit. The whole thing is pressed upwards. So I think we got a raise last year, 25%, and another 25% this year up. So we feel it as well.
What is happening? Is it climate change?
No, the big guys, I mean, 98% of the world's chocolate businesses pissed their pants just to have cheap cacao. So this was, I actually stood on the stage in Berlin and the big guys conference, ICCO conference, and said, this is going to happen in 5 years. I missed with 2 years.
What did you predict? What have they done that's gone wrong?
Well, the farmers are super poor. If you're a male farmer in West Africa, where 70% of the world's cacao is made, you have $1 a day for yourself. If you're a female farmer, it's half $1 a day for your work. No one can live from that. So you have old trees and they are malnourished, so the trees are sick or disease, not disease resistant from being well nourished. The kids, when they finish being used as a cheap labor or even slave labor in the plantations, they flee into the city because it's a dead end to be a cacao farmer. Then you have diseases that's been known for more than 100 years, but because cacao has just been planted haphazardly all over West Africa and replaced 70% of the rainforest. They managed to cut down 95% of the rainforest in West Africa over the last 30 years. 70% of that is cacao. So this disease can just spread without stopping. so you have disease. And the cream cherry on top of that is climate change, because if you plant your trees in the middle of the sun instead of in a classic cacao plantation with shading trees and stuff like that, you will have a quicker growth and stuff, but you also need to water when it's too dry, and they cannot do that because they have no money and there's no rivers and anything. And you also have when there's too much rain, it's too wet, and you will have fungi diseases and stuff like this.
And how about the future in terms of new products, new directions? I've gone crazy about 100% bars recently and found some that are actually almost edible. What are your new products coming down the line?
It's actually more high percentage bars.
Okay. Why do you think that's?
Basically because there is the more I eat chocolate, the more I like the purity of the cacao being made into chocolate. So it's a desire in terms of making different qualities inside this segment. From a commercial side of the coin, it's the 85 and the 100 I do now are 2 or 3 most sold bars.
Do you think consumers are getting more sophisticated?
Definitely. I mean, the quality of coffee that people were drinking 30 years ago demanded that you use milk and sugar. But if you get a higher quality of coffee or tea or cacao, then the sugar is less necessary. And we also have a big emphasis right now in our societies that we all get too much sugar, we all get fat, it's not coming from nothing.
100%, the healthy option, and I also find you can't eat too much of it because it is a pretty powerful flavour, right? So two little blocks are enough.
It's like an espresso, and for me in the afternoon, that's my go-to chocolate if I have it lying around. But the 100% is really satisfying, and it saturates my taste buds for half an hour, and my brain is happy.
For Monocle in Herlev, Denmark, I'm Michael Booth.
Thank you, Michael. This is the menu. And finally, this weekend, a great deal of chocolate will be consumed in the ovoid shape of an Easter egg. This is a time for chocolatiers around the world to show off their skills and for experiments and latest trends in the industry to come to the fore. Volunteering to put different Easter eggs to the taste test, our senior correspondent Fernando Augusto Pacheco joined me in the studio with some treats. Well, let's rewind the clock, because I think the Easter eggs are quite ubiquitous in many different countries, but what was it like growing up for you? Did you kind of enjoy bashing into Easter eggs growing up in Brazil? And what were they like when you were growing up? And what were they like in the UK when you first moved? Did you find any differences, any kind of striking comparisons?
I have to say, when I moved to the UK, I was mildly disappointed because in Brazil, Easter, of course, is big, like in many other countries, but it's extremely festive. You go to a supermarket, I would even compare to Christmas almost. There were Easter eggs hanging from the ceilings in all supermarkets. It was very busy, it was very festive. I presume maybe similar to Italy, I wonder. And when I moved to the UK, most Easter eggs, they came like in a box. It felt a little bit... I don't know. I was not happy when I moved here. Things are changing, though.
I really second you on that, because growing up in Italy, if you go to the supermarket around Easter time, all the eggs are wrapped up in these really flamboyant, kind of sparkly, like silverish covers. And as you say, it's like a sea of gorgeous colours. And yeah, I was quite disappointed to see everything kind of neatly laid out on like normal supermarket shelves when I first came to the UK. Also, I suppose I'm very partial in this regard as well. I don't know how you feel about it, but what do you think makes for the perfect Easter egg? Because I know that for me, it's about the chocolate, but the surprise, plays a really big role in it as well.
Of course, there's always the surprise, which I think is very important. You know what I think it's important as well? To have something that you don't have the rest of the year.
But I would agree with you, because there's part of me that really hankers for tradition. And in Italy, I would have to say that the giant, like, Kinder egg is just like synonymous with Easter. But it is basically like a giant version of what we are used to, all the rest of the time of the year. So I'm really excited that you brought in a combination of very traditional and very experimental things into the studio today. Where would you like to start?
Shall we start with the simple one? And it's a company that we've been discussing here, which is Lindt. I think Lindt is very solid, and they have a big presence around the world. I mean, honestly, it's a Swiss brand, of course, but in the UK, they are really ramping up investment. They opened a massive flagship store in Piccadilly Circus, which I'm very thankful. In fact, I did try to go there 3 times, but the queue was massive. And I think honestly, it was about half an hour wait. So that shows that it's funny because it's a brand that everybody knows. You're in the airport, but people are excited about it.
I do have to say that much as this is probably my favourite kind of Easter chocolate available in the UK, it doesn't come with a surprise inside. I just don't know if I can really fully get on board with it. Also, there is always obviously the element of just feeling quite cruel taking off the entire head of the bunny. But for the sake of journalism, this and more, right? I'm going in.
I'm going in as well. And you know what they say, Chiara? You should never eat chocolate before going on radio. But we're making an exception here because
we're on radio.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
We are talking about chocolate here.
Here is... Oh, I see now that the Gold Bunny is actually salted caramel flavour.
Let me try the salted caramel, because I always thought salted caramel was a bit overrated, but let me give you the final.
What's the verdict?
Good, solid, a little bit too sweet for me. I would stick to the milk chocolate one. What about you?
I really have to agree with you. I think that in this specific instance, I think there's a bit too much crunch. To the salted caramel version. What I like about the Easter egg, this one specifically, but also in general, I think that there's like a real value in also the thickness of the chocolate. Yes. Because there are people who really enjoy like a really thin kind of melt in your mouth type of experience with chocolate. We established it was a classic. We knew it was kind of playing easy. Now let's go for something a little bit more experimental. I love the look of this.
I actually went shopping with the producer of the menu, Monocle Radio, and we were looking for something different as well. And we came across something which is from her region of the world. It's from a brand called Choc on Choc. Cute name, and they are from Somerset. And again, it's that trend, even in a place like Selfridges, which is a big department store here in London, they are selling more of the smaller brands. So it's not just about Lindt or Godiva. We have this, and apparently they're chocolate makers. It's Flo and Kerr.
Oh,
very cute, but
very personal, but also this is definitely an egg, but not the egg that you're normally used to seeing. What is it? Please describe it.
Gosh, this is generally a fried egg, a gigantic one, but it's made of chocolate. It's quite thick and hard. I wonder how we're going to eat this. So I predict it's going to be a little bit of white chocolate, but I want to know how the yolk is made of. Looking here, it's going to be quite vanilla-esque. White chocolate with cocoa solids, of course. I think we have to try, Chiara. I might make a little bit of a mess in the studio. I promise to clean up.
You are right. It is white chocolate. How do you feel about white chocolate?
Big fan of white chocolate.
Really?
And things are changing as well, because when I moved to the UK, there was almost no white chocolate. It's back. And I think people can experiment. I know the purist might say, oh, this is not real chocolate. Of course it is. And there are different types of white chocolate. There's the sweet ones, which I agree. It can taste a little bit too sweet in the mouth and a little bit sickly almost. But the good brands, you can make it and taste it very chic. And I think this one is very delicate, I would say.
Well, we're ending up in another big contender in terms of chocolate globally with the brand Neuhaus from Belgium.
Belgian, and you know what, I've been spammed on my social media about this specific egg, so I was dying to try, so I'm so excited that I'm doing this for you. It's more white chocolate with pistachio.
Do you want to dig in?
So pistachio puffed rice and caramelized almond pieces, and look at the texture of that.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
It's sort of like a work of art.
Exactly.
The texture inside is very coarse, so it promises to deliver on the nut.
Not very thick, which is a problem for you. It explodes in your mouth. It's delicious.
It's almost, it almost feels like popping candy, but that's just the rice element of it. Very sweet, though. You're like this, but I'm a bit more on the conservative end of the spectrum here, I think. I like the crunch, but I'll be honest with you. I think Easter egg chocolate eating is about quantity as well. And I don't know if I could get through the whole thing, whilst I think there is sort of like a niceness and to the indulgence of just eating the whole thing and just going for a big slab. So I feel like this is the connoisseur's egg. You could probably have a tiny little bit, but I don't know if I could get through the whole thing. We said that we wanted to experiment, and then look at us. We've ended up crowning the absolute favourite going into the race. But maybe we're just very simple people, you and I. Fernando, until the next holiday, until the next big global countdown of whatever delicacy we're looking at next. Thank you so much.
Happy Easter.
Thank you, Fernando. And that's all for this edition of The Menu. Remember that we are back with a new episode again on Friday at 2000 London time. That's at midday in San Francisco. Also, don't forget to tune into our spin-off show Food Neighborhoods for a tour of some of the world's tastiest destinations. I am Chiara Rimella. This program was produced by Monica Lillis, and our sound engineers were Lily Austin and Finn Simons. Thanks for listening, and until next week.